USC is going to be playing with a chip on its shoulder this season. And is every conference game going to feel like a Rose Bowl game?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your team every day, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube or wherever you want to download your podcast, never forget the show is free. And always remember how much I appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get started. Late last week, Coach Lincoln Riley, he did an interview with On3's J.D. Pickell. You might have seen him floating around there on social media. Does a lot of interviews. Anyways, they touched on a few topics, and one of them, they were discussing USC's move into the Big Ten Conference. So let's break it down. Some of the things that they talked about. What did Coach Riley say? What did he mean? That's what I'm here for. That's why you come here. I know that I have plenty of friends who are Trojan fans, and they were not only mad, myself included, about the way last season played out, but they were embarrassed. Mostly because those preseason prognostications that myself and others put out there, they look like soft dog dookie by the end of the regular season. Yeah, they smelled, they stank. Both the preseason picks and the way the team played went hand in hand. So Coach Riley, he was asked, quote, if there's an extra edge to the team during these winter conditioning sessions following USC's 8-5 season in 2023. Here's what Coach Riley had to say. There is, without a doubt. From moving to the Big Ten to building the new roster, more based on high school recruiting to adding so many new coaches to wanting to improve dramatically on the defensive side of the ball, there is an additional intensity level this offseason. So it sounds like there are some philosophical changes that the program is transitioning. He specifically mentioned high school recruiting and the obvious coaching shift away from Alex Grinch's defensive style. That part of his answer had to do with the program's infrastructure and why they're being so aggressive. Because they want to survive, not just this year, but in the future as well when they move to the Big Ten Conference. And he's trying to get USC back to being what everybody anticipates USC should be quickly. He tried to do that for the first 2 years through the transfer portal. Coach Riley is saying right now, I think I've got us over that hump. Now we're going to really get aggressive and emphasize our roster build through the high school recruiting ranks. We'll see how that works out. Now, he continued, quote, we've got a great opportunity in front of us. Sounds familiar, right? There's certainly an edge about this program. And I think, honestly, it started even before this offseason. I think it really started going into our bowl game. You saw the way that our team performed and that the team was pretty representative of the team that we have now, or kind of right now, obviously with some new faces. But there's been an edge and an aggressiveness in this program since the day that the regular season ended. And we're just hoping to continue to build on that leading into spring ball, end quote. Now that quote unquote great opportunity part, new year, same song, coach speak. But at the same time, he's right. Coach Riley was talking about after last season's disaster, why not just continue to build off of that performance? That's what they wanted everybody to remember. That's the last thing that USC showed on the field, and that's what they're going to build off of. That's where they have that edge. Now, I just wish that spring camp wasn't so far away. It opens on March 19th. My everyday listeners, viewers, if you were watching the show yesterday, you heard me talk about that. But at least there isn't going to be a break this year during spring camp. So there isn't going to be no 1 week on, and then your guys are going to get a week off, and then you're going to come back, and we're going to finish off spring camp. that crap is done with this year. They're going to go straight through. So, look, hey, if that team that played in the Holiday Bowl shows up on a weekly basis, USC is going to be just fine scoring points in the Big Ten Conference against good defenses that like to play physical. A little bit of sarcasm in there. They are big. They like to play physical. We talked about this on another episode. Are the defenses really good, or are the offenses kind of mediocre? So here's the thing, doing it for one game after weeks to prepare like USC did versus Louisville in the Holiday Bowl. They came to play. They were physical. That's different than having to do it for an entire season. And that's why Coach Riley and the team is going after it so aggressively during the winter conditioning. USC has to. They've got to get thick. They got to get bigger for this Big Ten season. Just get bigger and be ready to play that physical brand of football that the Big Ten Conference has been known for. J.D. Pickell, he also got Coach Riley to discuss his thoughts on the new conference and the potential rivalries. And I found this interesting. Quote, I think the thing that excites you the most is the matchups, right? It's the new rivalries that are going to come out of this. The Rose Bowl has always been such a historic program within college football. And you think of all the great traditional Pac-12 and Big Ten matchups, all the great games that were spread out. Now you're going to have these matchups every single year. You're going to have them multiple times throughout the year. You're going to have them at different people's locations. You're going to have exciting teams that you're going to have exciting teams that you're bringing into your home spot. You're going to go into a really cool road environment. So I think just the competition week in and week out, a chance to be a part of one of the top 2 college football conferences right now. I mean, I'm most excited about the challenge of the new coaches and the new scheme that you go against. I mean, all of it, man. I think the competitor in you just loves the opportunity that's coming up, end quote. I'm going to start paraphrasing Coach Riley because a little bit of that mule shoe comes in when he's talking, and I don't speak mule shoe very well. I'm kidding, Coach. Love your quotes. Look, as a fan, I'm pretty geeked up for the next handful of seasons. I admit it. I'm looking forward to all the newness, playing games in Madison, Wisconsin, in Kinnick, at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa, so I can wave to the Children's Hospital. I've never been to Maryland, so I'm looking forward to taking that trip. USC is going to visit Ann Arbor this year. Trojan fans. I mean, how does a trip to Bloomington, Indiana sound, right? This is what Coach Riley was talking about. But this past granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, the 109th version, I think that was the last guaranteed traditional Rose Bowl that's going to feature, the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. It's just the way it's going. So how long before, the luster wears off, where these games are no longer going to feel special? In other words, who is it eventually going to turn into USC's new Washington State or Colorado, Arizona? There's just those next ho-hum games. They're conference games, and, they're going to be competitive, and anybody can beat anybody, but you're not looking forward to them like you look forward to playing an Ohio State or a Michigan or a Penn State or an Iowa or Wisconsin. You get where I'm going with this. So, excuse me. I'm just wondering, we're all looking forward to this transition to the Big Ten Conference. I've been looking forward to it, playing these games on an annual basis. But what Coach Riley was talking about, and again, with the Rose Bowl kind of, dying a slow death on the vine, how long before this newness wears off? Where it's like, all right, well, now we're a member of the conference, and we got to go play Rutgers or Purdue or whomever, whatever the dreg of the year is, Illinois, Northwestern. Now, the other big topic this offseason that JD brought up with Coach Riley was obviously the defensive staff changes. This is what Coach Riley had to say. But it does give you an opportunity to take a step back and really say, where do we want to go? and it was all about development. In this day and age, with all this change, I really feel like that can be one of our many advantages here. We really tried to go after guys that we thought were just completely elite at developing defenses, defensive players, and individual position groups. We shot for the stars and didn't take anybody off the table with regard to whether anybody would be there or whether was there a chance of not bringing that coach in. We're really, really proud of how the staff has come together, and now it's time to go put results on the field. I have talked about this ad nauseum. Okay, Coach said defense was going to be priority number one, and right now he has put together a staff, in his words, that is second to no one. So now, as far as I'm concerned, the recruits that I was referencing earlier, they need to take 20 seconds of bravery and they need to commit. So we're going to see what happens. Those are what Coach Riley's thoughts are on moving to the Big Ten Conference, the rivalries. Is USC going to come in playing with a chip on its shoulder, so to speak? How embarrassed were they last year? Well, from the fans' perspective, a lot of angry fans. So I'm going to hope, and I'm going to anticipate that this USC football team in 2024 is going to have a little bit of anger, and hopefully they play with it as well. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. So bet on all your favorite teams, NBA players, whatever. You got quick bets. You've got same-game parlays, exclusive prop bets. They got a whole lot more than that. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. In this segment, you can see I've got my class of 2024 favorite recruit of the week. So who is Lorenzo Cowan? Well, besides being this week's favorite recruit of the week, Lorenzo is a 6'3", 220-pound edge player from Savannah, Georgia. During his senior year, he led his team in tackles for loss, and sacks. What the numbers? Okay, here they are. 76 tackles, 11 of those were TFLs, 8 sacks, 12 quarterback hurries, and 8 passes defended. That'll get it done. What's interesting is Roy Manning loved this guy. He was his lead recruiter. Must-have guy for Coach Manning. Danton Land is credited as being his primary recruiter. You know me, I use the On3 recruiting database. Well, you also know that they had to give credit to somebody because Roy Manning is no longer a member of USC's coaching staff. Did a great job, but like we talked about in the previous segment, Maccan Riley got really aggressive, wholesale changes. The only defensive coach he kept around, Sean Nua, and maybe a couple of the quality control assistants, GAs, that type of stuff. Now, at first, everyone thought that Lorenzo Cowan was a Kentucky lock, Kentucky Wildcats. I mean, he was committed. His older brother plays for Kentucky. But then he took a surprise visit to USC. It was late in 2023. And shortly after that, he decommitted from Kentucky. And then a few days later after that, he was committed to USC. And now he is already enrolled. He is an early enrollee. He's taking part in winter conditioning sessions. When he flipped and committed back in December, this is what he said. I love the way Coach Riley leads his team. I just wanted to be a part of the culture that they have there. The people that are on the team, they all show love. You always feel love all the time you're in LA. It doesn't get much better than that, end quote. So, passionate guy, likes the word love. And that's a good quality to have, by the way. But Lorenzo said he was also looking at life after football and, what drew him to USC. He was impressed by USC's Department of Psychology and the people he met outside of the football program. So who knows? Maybe he'll be another Dr. Phil one day. He said this after his official visit. Me, my family, and I were just so mind blown by the opportunity they presented to me. Once I got there and saw it for myself, the people, and saw the possibilities that they may have at the University of Southern California, that's what did it. I love Coach Riley. He's really a great guy. Outside of coaching, I've gotten the chance to really see the type of person that he is. We are very well like-minded. We want to win. Coach Riley is very consistent with who he is and is a very great leader. Everyone on the team believes in him. There are no doubts about who he is. Those guys will run through a wall for Coach Riley, and that's the type of team I want to be a part of, end quote. Now, his former high school coach, his name's Tony Welch, said this: USC is getting a great player and an even better person. We know that Coach Riley and, the player council, there's a lot of vetting that goes on. You got to get through them if you want to be a member of that program and walk in that locker room. So that's why I wanted to emphasize that USC is getting a great person, great player, and an even better person. You can never have too many of those. Now, when you look at his intangibles, 6'3", 215, roughly, he sounds more like a linebacker than a rush edge player. So we'll see where he plays. I know he's under the impression, he was recruited by Manning, that, he sees early playing opportunity. I think, unless he goes through a major growth spurt, he's probably going to be an outside linebacker, which is still, I guess, qualifies under that edge position. I think Danton Lynn uses it differently. USC needs big guys at the line of scrimmage. And so I anticipate a redshirt year for this young man so he can bulk up, get ready for the big conference. He still might play some special teams. We'll see. Again, he's got an advantage. He's already enrolled. He has the opportunity to use Benny Wiley and the conditioning program to get some weight added on quickly. We'll see what happens. Now, he also has an older brother who plays defensive line at Kentucky. His name's Tavon Gadsden, He's 6'5", 275 pounds, and he was in the class of 2023. Say, Mark, why are you bringing this up? You never know. You just never know. Does USC have... Look, we know USC wants big guys on the defensive line. We'll see what happens. I don't know anything. I'm just throwing it out there. I know that was part of the thought process when they were recruiting Lorenzo. Hey, maybe they'll have a chance to flip big brother. Like I said, you never know. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from the seat, and their best price guarantee, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. GameTime has easy-to-find tickets because every time you're looking to buy your ticket, you can say, where am I going to be sitting? They show it to you. And they even have an event cancellation protection policy. Right now, all GameTime users, you can use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download the GameTime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, last week, the NCAA was told by Congress, by the Supreme Court, you do not have the right to tell a high school player he can't make money. A federal judge granted a preliminary injunction Friday afternoon suspending NCAA rules regarding name, image, and likeness benefits for athletes and indirectly helping the University of Tennessee amid an NCAA investigation. The win for the attorneys general in Tennessee and Virginia in their antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA is expected to effectively end UT's fight with the NCAA over rules related to NIL. So, it wasn't the Supreme Court, I apologize. A federal appeals judge granted a preliminary injunction. What does that mean? It means high school players, you get to get paid. You know my thoughts about using the term bust when we're talking about players that didn't live up to their high school rankings that someone attached to their name. With that said, let's think back to all the 4- and 5-star high school, figure quotes, busts who could have been paid if this rule was allowed back then. I mean, how much money would USC, their collectives, not USC, would they have spent on players like Whitney Lewis, more recently, Corey Foreman, George Farmer? Let me go way back machine. Manuel Wright. All of these guys, top guys coming out of high school, they would have demanded top NIL dollar. None of these guys really worked out at USC for one reason or another. That's why I don't like to use the term bust. Some are injury, some just didn't live up to the 5-star ranking. That's the risk. But see, here's the thing. Fans are willing to risk someone else's money to secure a commitment. It's easy to spend somebody else's money. If you think the NIL game and the transfer portal are out of whack now, just watch what happens. What's going to stop those $100 handshakes? They still take place now, but literally every handshake. You want to come to my school? Go take your girlfriend out to dinner tonight. And that can happen like 5 times a day. Think of these 7-on-7 events. How Pandora's box is open. The genie is out of the bottle. I don't know how they are going to control this. I mean, are you ready for 1-year rosters? I'm telling you, when money becomes the motivating factor, greed is going to take over. And when you're 16, 17 years old, and someone's throwing, hey, I can get you this great opportunity, and you can make this much money per year. I mean, when you're that age, I remember when I was 16, 17, I'm thinking, man, I want a new car. And even though I wasn't into video games, these guys are thinking, when's the latest PlayStation console coming out? This is not going to end well. And check this out. If that isn't enough, we are one more Givel Slam away from the college football players becoming university employees. Yeah, we're right around the corner. For some of you who aren't aware of this, and I'm not going to dive into this, USC is being sued because they're treating their football players, their student athletes, unfairly. So once that comes to fruition, once the universities have to make football players employees so they can pay them, that means player unions. Yeah, that's going to mean revenue splits. The tail's going to be wagging the dog. His name's Michael Maccan. He wrote an article for Sportico.com where it was talking about college athletes will become employees and some will even want to unionize. That's already taken place, by the way. I think Dartmouth, they voted on it. They want to unionize. So colleges are going to face 3 choices. They're either going to embrace it, they're going to resist, or they're going to start cutting. And by cutting, we're talking about team sports. They'll do so as the U.S. college age population shrinks dramatically, causing major budget challenges. I try to make sense of it all. So again, go look it up, Sportico.com. Michael Maccan. Here's the thing. If football costs more to run at the university, because now they have to pay more people to play, cuts have to be made. I really hope Johnny football player that's dating, maybe the star women's field hockey player, I hope he's willing to make it rain. Because, one of these days, that scholarship that she's on, it's not going to exist anymore. Like I said, schools are going to have to make cuts. And if you got to increase your overhead by bringing on 85 scholarship players, you got to make employees, you got to pay them. Money's got to come from somewhere. We're not talking about NIL donations anymore. I could do a whole show on these topics because they're all interwoven. But this is the direction the game is going. Is it good? I mean, will the love for the college game become more like the NFL? It's going to get real interesting to see where this goes. Pretty soon, college football, in my opinion, I think it's going to cease to exist. If colleges are going to be forced to pay and then, offer benefits packages, healthcare, and scholarships, something's going to break. You can only put so much stress on the structure before you start to see cracks. So we're going to see what happens. It's real interesting where we're at right now. Everything is moving so quickly. You've got the super conference formations. You've got the NIL available to anybody. The transfer portal. You got a winter transfer portal. You got a spring transfer portal. You got an early signing period. You got the February signing period. This is why you're losing college coaches to the NFL. And the more they keep doing this, the more they keep making these types of rule changes. I think it's just going to end up looking more and more like the NFL. Right now, college football is a minor league system. It's going to really, really resemble it. The direction it's going right now, yeah. I feel it. So, all right, I'm done. I'm kind of just rambling around right now. Honk. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow because Locked On USC, your team every day, part of the Locked On Network. We come at you 5 times a week. And when you're done making Locked On USC your first listen every day, head on over to wearesc.com. Check out all the information. What I'm not providing you here, it's getting put up over there. And Scott Schrader and Eric McKinney, they are busting their tail providing you with recruiting information. So take advantage of it, especially that $1 VIP subscription special they got going on. So until then, everyone, I'll see you tomorrow. You know what to do.